So this video is going to be my first impressions of this 2021 Commencal Meta HT Origin Edition. Quite the mouthful. I'm a beginner mountain bike rider. This is my first mountain bike. I've ridden them before, but never owned one. And this is just my first impressions of the bike. It might be helpful for other beginners because I don't think many experienced riders are going to be buying this lowest trim model. So I've been curious about mountain biking for a little over a year, and I've watched a ton of videos and read a bunch of articles and everything, trying to learn all I can about it. Before I had any money to spend on a bike, I just did that. Until this year I actually had money to buy a bike, and of course there were no bikes. At the moment I had enough money to buy a bike, I really wanted a Specialized Fuse 27.5, which were a very popular bike. So I went to the bike shop, and of course they don't have it, and I was asking them, when could you get next year's model or whatever, and they said maybe mid-October, but maybe not even then, maybe not till next year even. So I decided that was crazy. I wasn't gonna keep waiting to ride a mountain bike, so I went back online and started looking for other options and found this Commencal, which was just announced, and I love the look of it. That was the initial thing, like, this thing looks sick, the color is awesome, and the price was the same as the Specialized, $15.99 Canadian. I weighed the options very heavily. I looked through the Specialized specs and tried to determine if it was a better value or not, and if I waited for it, would it be worth it? Because this bike was for sale as a pre-order, and I knew I could get it within a reasonable time. So after like a few hours of looking at bikes and other specs and stuff, I pulled the trigger on this, did the pre-order thing. I ordered it like June 25th or something, and I got it on August 19th, I think, which is a long time to wait, but I say it's worth it. So the total cost with shipping was just over $1,800 Canadian, and then I bought pedals and they were $100 as well. So to like get a rideable bike, you're looking at $1,900, and then I bought a mountain bike helmet as well, another 150 bucks. So it all adds up, and it ended up being over $2,000 to like get into this for real, which is a lot, but still I'd say worth it because this will last a long time, I think. So one of my concerns was the sizing. As you're ordering online, you have no chance to try the bike out and see how it feels. So I originally ordered a medium because I am 5'10", and I am right on the cut of medium and large. A few days after I ordered it, I saw some comments on Pink Bike talking about the bike and saying how the large is more like a medium in any other brand, so I changed my order to a large, and it was a great decision. I don't think I would have enjoyed a smaller bike as much as this one. I think it's a perfect size for me, and it's quite comfortable as well. I don't feel crunched in like I was really worried about. Yeah, they say that this bike has a short reach for the size, and maybe that's true, but it's totally fine. Like, you're not gonna be like disappointed with the reach being too short. It's not like that. It's pretty good. One of the main components I was worried about was the coil fork, because I see it recommended so often to save up for an air fork instead of buying a cheaper bike that has coil. But as my experience told me, like, it's not really that much better. Like, I don't think there's any trail that you wouldn't be able to ride with this bike that you could ride with the more expensive one with the air fork. Like, this fork is super robust. The travel is super long, like way longer than you would ever use, unless you're doing some really double black type of stuff. And it doesn't feel bad. Like, I don't really know what I'm looking for because I'm just starting, but just based on what I read and what other people are saying about coils, like the pogo stick effect and stuff like that. But I don't notice that. I don't notice any problems with it at all, really, except it's super heavy. It's about 2 pounds heavier than air fork. That's my only problem with it. But overall, it's great. Oh, by the way, it's a RockShox 35 Silver R. I was also kind of concerned about the brakes that it came with because they seem to be like the lowest tech or lowest spec Tektro brakes that you can get. At least hydraulic ones. But I think with the gigantic rotors, the front is 200mm and the back is 180, that the budget brakes like punch up above their weight class kind of, because I have no problems with these brakes. They're extremely strong compared to what I've ever used in my life. Like when I first rode the bike after betting in the brakes, I just slammed on the brakes just to see how strong they were, and it scared the shit out of me. Like, it was so like instant lockup, and I've never experienced that. Maybe like, I don't know what those $200 Saint brakes are like, but these are good enough for me for the foreseeable future. The only problem with them is the levers rattle. I don't know who designed that, but they should be fired. There's like the levers just rattle, the metal rattles because they're loose. And as for the stock tires, I'd say they are good enough for me or any other beginner. They seem well built just to touch them, even though I know they're V tire and they're cheaper quality. They're like $60, I think, to buy instead of like the normal $100. But they seem fine. I mean, they're really big and slow, obviously, because they're so fat and heavy. But I think they're like the first thing I'm gonna change. But I'm gonna wait for next year because I don't really need to change it now. And to change them is like another $200 some because the tires are so expensive. I was looking at these like 2.6 inch wide cross country tires, and I think that would be perfect for me because I want the comfortable ride with the high volume tire, but also I don't need downhill tread. No trails here really are that intense that you need that, so I prefer to have a lighter tire that could go uphill better. They're fine, and they're tubeless ready, which I don't think they were on last year's model or something. I've read that before, but they are tubeless ready, it does say on it. Haven't tried tubeless yet. The Dior drivetrain 1x10 is awesome. By far the best drivetrain I've used. Gears shift super quickly, and the gear range is perfect. Like, it's so rare that I can even use the lowest or the highest gear, like the fastest gear, but it's just fast enough. Like, it's like 30 something kilometers an hour, 35 maybe. So it's pretty fast, and it's pretty hard to get up to that speed on this bike because it's so heavy and the tires are so big. So it's like, that's about as fast as you can go on the bike. So, and the highest climbing gear is great as well. I don't see why you would need any lower of a gear. Like, I've gone up some seriously steep stuff with that lowest gear, and it's just great. 1x10 is simple, easy to use, and the shifter is great. No complaints. I also wasn't sure how well this bike would climb, and after riding it 3 or 4 times, I could say it's a great climber. I think you can go up anything on this bike that any XC bike could do. It's just going to be a bit slower going up, but that's totally fine by me. Because I more so wanted a bike that could do everything, like a versatile bike, rather than be like the fastest bike out there. I want a bike that I can just go like A to B and not worry about things. And if you're wondering, the saddle is really good as well. Today I just rode it for an hour 45 minutes without any chamois or anything, and I was never that uncomfortable. Better than the saddle that's on my road bike. One thing that constantly surprises me and impresses me still is how much stuff you can go over without really noticing it, or how good the suspension works, I guess, and how plush the tires are. Probably the worst attribute of the bike is the turning, but I'm assured that I will get used to the slack angle and how it turns, because it's quite twitchy, but I'm also not good, so it's partly that. But it's hard to like really put it where you want it to go, and really tight turns are really quite difficult, and it's kind of awkward in that situation, but it's still totally fine. Like, it's so rare that you come across stuff that will be a problem, but that's definitely a flaw or a drawback. And one final thing which I forgot about is the crank set, which is Dior crankset, and bottom bracket as well as Dior, I think. I was totally surprised by how much I could tell that it was high quality, because I never had such a nice bottom bracket and crankset. My gravel / road bike is a budget model and just has like tapered or whatever, but this is the full threaded thing, and the stiffness is so good. It's perfect. I can see myself never spending money on upgrading that unless it breaks. Like, I don't see why you would spend hundreds of dollars to upgrade that past Dior, because it's already as good as I think it probably can be as far as stiffness is concerned, and that just helps you put more power down easily, especially when climbing. You really notice it. So my final thoughts, it's just I really love the bike, and it was a great purchase. It's worth the money, I would say, despite the fact it doesn't have a dropper post or an air fork, which are drawbacks on paper, I guess. But in terms of capability, I don't think you can match this at this price. And if you're a beginner who thinks that they're gonna take the sport seriously, relatively, then I would recommend this model, because it's perfect for upgrading as well, because you can throw any fork on there you want, and everything is to like the current standard, so it's ripe for customization. I wouldn't really want one probably if I lived like on a mountain, just because the hardtail would be pretty uncomfortable, like for real descending and stuff. But I live in the prairies, and I think a full suspension would be a waste of my money at this point, because they're like twice as much money, and I don't think they're twice as comfortable, or I highly doubt they are. No, I've never ridden one. But anyway, if you can afford to buy this bike and you don't want to step it up to the higher trims, I think you'll be really happy.